Hello everybody. Today I'm going to explain the lesson Heidi Meets Grandfather. It's a story of a little girl whose name was Heidi. She was going to the village to stay with her grandfather. So before I start explaining the lesson, let us go through the word meanings. The first word is steep, and the meaning is having a very sharp slope, almost straight up and down. Rosy, pink or red like a rose. Slopes, sides of a mountain. Introduced, made someone meet another person. Frown, to wrinkle the forehead when a person is angry or not pleased. Comfortable, happy or at ease. Timidly, shy, in a scared manner. Gruffly, in a rough voice. Loft, attic, or a very small room at the top of the house. Hay means dry grass. Fresh, new, recent, not old. Excitement, a feeling of great interest in something. Lumps, shapeless pieces of something. Cutlery, knives, forks, and spoons. Supper, light evening meal. Delicious, very tasty. Goatherd, person who looks after goats. Fresh air, air that is clean. So now let us begin with the lesson. Heidi meets grandfather. Little Heidi and her Aunt Tate were going up a steep path in the Swiss mountains. Heidi was 5 years old with rosy cheeks and beautiful black hair. She had lived with her aunt from the time her parents had died. So it is a story of little Heidi. She, with her Aunt Tate, were going up a steep path in the Swiss mountains. Steep means having a very sharp slope. So she was going to the village and they were going up a steep path in the Swiss mountains. Now the description of Heidi is given. Heidi was a 5 years old girl with rosy cheeks. Rosy means pink or red colored cheeks, and she had beautiful black hair. She was living with her Aunt Tate since her parents had died. When she was too small, her parents had died, and from that time she had been living with her Aunt Tate. And now her aunt got a job in Frankfurt and was unable to take care of Heidi any longer. So now Aunt Tate got a job in Frankfurt. So now she had to go to job. She was unable to take care of Heidi. So she was taking her to live with her grandfather. She was taking the child to live with her grandfather. After his son Tobias, Heidi's father died, grandfather had left Dorfli, a village at the foot of the Alps, and moved into a hut on the mountain slopes. So when Heidi was very small, her father, whose name was Tobias, when he died, then her grandfather left the village Dorfli and he started living into a hut on the mountain slopes. Daddy introduced Heidi to her grandfather. The little girl ran up to him and held out her hand. So now they had reached the house of the grandfather. Daddy introduced Heidi to her grandfather, and the little girl, she ran up to him and held out her hand to shake with her grandfather's hand. Hello, grandfather, she said. I'm very happy to meet you. He shook her hand but turned to Daddy with a frown and asked, what's the meaning of this? Who told you to bring her here? I do not need a child in my life now. She has lived with you for many years. She will not be comfortable with me. So when Aunt Dete introduced Heidi to her grandfather, She was very excited to meet her grandfather. She ran up to him and held out her hand to shake it with grandfather's hand. She said, "Hello, grandfather. I'm very happy to meet you." So he shook her hand, but her grandfather shook her hand, but turned to Date with a frown. He was not happy to see Heidi. He asked Aunt Dete, "What's the meaning of this? Who told you to bring her here? I don't need a child in my life now. She has lived with you for many years. She will not be comfortable with me." So she told Aunt Dete that Heidi had been living with you for so many years, and now I don't want any child in my life, so she won't feel comfortable with me. But Daddy had no other choice. She had to leave Heidi with her grandfather. Heidi was a little afraid of her grandfather, but she wanted to be friendly. Since Daddy had no any other choice, she had to go for a job. She could not take care of Heidi any more, so she had to leave Heidi with her grandfather. And now Heidi saw that her grandfather was not happy to meet her, so she was a little scared of her grandfather, but she wanted to be friendly with him. "Is this where you live, grandfather?" she asked timidly. What do you mean by timidly? Timidly means she was scared. She was shy. In a scared manner, she asked her grandfather, "Is there where you live?" "Come with me," she said gruffly. "I'll show you around." Gruffly means very roughly. He was not in a good mood, so he said, "Come with me. I'll show you around where I live." The house was just one room with only a bed, a large cupboard, and a wooden table. Heidi ran up to the hay loft. So the house was very small. It had only one room, and there was only one bed in it. There was a large cupboard in it, and only a wooden table. So Heidi ran up to the hay loft. Loft is a very small room at the top of the hut. "It's so wonderful up here, nice and warm, and the hay is so soft. There's even a small window from where I can see the mountains." Since there was only one room in the house, so Heidi went up to the loft. So there she said, "It's so wonderful up here, very nice. This is so warm, and the hay means dry grass. It is so soft, and even there is a small window from where I can see the mountains." So this is the place, this is the loft where she went, and she was feeling very nice there to see that small loft. "You can have that for your bedroom if you like," said grandfather. So when grandfather saw Heidi feeling happy to see that loft, he said, "You can have that for your bedroom. You can make it as your bedroom. You can stay here." "Can I really?" Heidi replied happily. "Oh, thank you, grandfather. First, I must make a bed." So when Heidi listened listened to her grandfather when her grandfather told her that you can make this place as a bedroom, you can stay here. So he felt very happy. She asked her happily, "Can I really?" "Oh, thank you, grandfather. So now, first of all, I'll make a bed." She began to make a bed with some fresh, sweet-smelling hay. She was very pleased with it. So she started making her bed with a fresh, sweet-smelling hay. Hay, as I have already told you, dry grass. So she was very pleased with it. She was very happy with it. "I believe this is the best bed in the whole of Switzerland," she said. So she told her grandfather that, "I feel that this is the best bed that I have made with this fresh, sweet smelling hay. In the whole of Switzerland, this is the best bed." Grandfather smiled at Heidi's excitement. "Are you hungry, child? It's time we ate." So grandfather, when he saw that Heidi was very excited, so on seeing her excitement, grandfather smiled and he asked her if she was feeling hungry. So she asked her, let us go and have something to eat. Grandfather began preparing the food. He cut 2 slices of bread and 2 lumps of goat's cheese and toasted the cheese over the fire. So only grandfather was living there. So he was the person only who cooked food for himself and for Hidi also. So he started preparing the food. He cut 2 slices of bread with 2 lumps, roughly cut pieces of goat's cheese, and then he toasted the cheese over the fire. He was pleased to see Hidi trying to help him. So Hidi was also trying to help her grandfather, and he was happy when Hidi started helping him. She took the dishes and cutlery from the cupboard and began to set the table. So cutlery means spoons, knives, and dishes. So she took the dishes and cutlery from the cupboard and started um, set, setting the table. The two of them sat down to a supper of bread, cheese, and goat's milk. So supper means a very light evening meal. So both of them started having supper of bread, cheese, and goat's milk. That was truly delicious, said Hedy when she had finished. So after finishing her supper, she appreciated that that was truly delicious. Delicious means the food was very tasty, yummy. She helped grandfather clear the table and wash the dishes. It was beginning to get dark. They sat outside and watched the sunset. Hedy saw a boy coming down the mountains with his goats. His name was Peter. So after having the supper, uh, she helped grandfather to clear the table and even she washed the dishes. Now it was getting dark. Both of them sat outside and watched the sunset. And what did Hedy see? Hedy saw that a boy was coming down the mountains with his goats, and his name was Peter. Peter the goatherd looked after grandfather's goats. So who is goatherd? Who looks after the goats. So Peter was the boy who looked after grandfather's goats, little Swan and little Bear. One was pure white and the other brown. So little Swan was uh, pure white in color, whereas little Bear was brown in color. Where has Peter been with the goats? Asked Hedy. So Hedy asked the grandfather that from where has he been coming? Where has Peter been with the goats? Where had he taken the goats? He takes them into the mountains so that they can eat the fresh grass, replied grandfather. So the grandfather replied Hedy that Peter had taken all the goats into the mountains so that they can eat the fresh grass. Can I go with him tomorrow? Asked Hedy. The mountains look beautiful. I love the fresh air. I want to spend the day with little Swan and little Bear. So Hedy asked her grandfather that can I go with him tomorrow because I love to see the mountains. I love nature. I love fresh air. So I want to spend the day with little Swan and little Bear. It's getting late, said grandfather. Good night, Hedy, and sleep well. So grandfather said, now it's getting late. We must sleep. Good night and sleep well. Hedy fell asleep, dreaming of the mountains covered with fresh green grass and beautiful flowers. She knew she would be happy here with grandfather. Now Hedy also went to her bed in order to sleep. She fell asleep, dreaming of the mountains that were covered with fresh green grass, and there were so many beautiful flowers all over, and she was enjoying the beauty of nature. And now she had come to know that she would be really, really very happy staying there with her grandfather. So, this is the end of the story of Heidi. I hope all of you would have enjoyed. So in my next video, I will be explaining and discussing all the question answers and all the back exercises of this lesson, Heidi Meets Grandfather. Do watch that video also. I'll be giving the link of that video in the description of this video. Please go through it. So till then, bye bye. See you again.